Hello, everyone, and welcome to Schein Chats. I'm Karen Golden Russell. I am VP of Practice Services here at Henry Schein, and I'm here today with Dr. James Anderson, co-founder and Chief Executive Officer of eAssist, which is the nation's largest dental billing platform created by dentists for dentists. And Dr. Anderson is a dentist. He's a practicing dentist, and thrilled to see you, James. Thrilled to talk to you this morning.
Thanks, Karen. Nice to see you too. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so let's kick off today. We want to talk about dental insurance billing, which is, of course, near and dear to both your heart and my heart in terms of our backgrounds, but also in terms of eAssist and the great work that you and your eAssisters do. So can you tell us a bit about your background and the reasons why you decided to start eAssist? How did it all begin?
Thanks, Karen. That's a great question. So my undergrad degree was in finance. And I remember I went to Oregon Health and Sciences University, graduated 2002. I wanted to start multiple dental practices right out of the gate. This is before lots of dentists were doing that now. It's a good thing that many are doing that now. And I and I didn't know what I was doing. My first practice I opened up after I'd been out for a year, and I hired two people at like best I could that were like $9 an hour, and I was hoping it would all just work. And little did I know, the stresses that were ahead, that every dentist that's listening understands. You have sleepless nights. I still remember, like in month 3 in my practice, I wasn't sure if it was going to work. I'm $500,000 in debt,
Wow.
and with my house and family, probably $1 million. And I'm wondering, does that ever get any easier? Yeah, mostly it's staff issues, and you have the schedule that falls apart, and then you have. At the very beginning, I was working 6 days a week, just trying to produce all I possibly could. We were producing about $70,000, collecting about 30.
Oh.
It was just a disaster, and we found the right person to come in and help us. She was an all-star. She came in at $12 an hour. I mean, there's a funny story there, but I won't go into it. She basically said, "Look, once I've proven to you what my worth is, will you please consider tying it to something else and rewarding me?" And I said, "Of course." And so she did. We're collecting 70, we're producing about 65 by the time she came in and produced. And we went down a little bit because we were overbilling, and we were doing some things that we weren't supposed to be doing. Things weren't set up correctly inside of Dentrix. She fixed all of that, and eAssist, the dental office began to thrive, and it worked really well until she moved.
Oh.
But I had an idea to start multiple practices. I had to set a goal once a year. I would just start another practice, and I was just like, "Do you ever see that old Star Trek movie? The new one that came out like 10 years ago, where James Kirk like leaps before he looks."
Right.
I would always relate to that. I was like just leaping, like building things and leaping. And the second dental practice and third and fourth, it became very, very challenging when I realized the hardest part was finding an office manager who knew how to do dental billing and keep the schedule full and collect co-pays, present treatment plans, ensure there's harmony between the front and the back, and that things are just running well. And it was a real challenge to see. And once Jen Harvey moved, I knew I was in trouble, and I went through 6 different office managers trying to find someone like her. But my aging in my main practice that was doing about 180,000, 150 to 180, went from 50,000 of over 90 aging to 60 to 100 to 150 to 200. And so the real question is, doctors that are watching, do you know what your over 90 insurance aging is? Because most doctors don't know that. They just hope that it's working and that the money's coming in, you're making enough. But I guarantee you, there's thousands of dollars that are going uncollected month after month.
Do you think your experience was any different or is any different than
No.
other dentists? You think it's
unless dentists join DSOs and all this is all this is done at a cost, but it's all done for them. And then every dentist has to learn these principles. They have to understand what's happening in the front. They have to understand what the front office manager's responsibilities truly are, and allow that front office manager to focus on the patients that are there. Like, that's the secret. We're asking an office manager to do a lot,
right,
to keep the schedule full, to run the practice, to present treatment plans, to collect copays, to to order supplies, to manage the lab. Like there's a number of things as a practice grows that you have to start delegating to other people. And one of the most important ones, especially if you're contracted with insurance companies, which more and more of us have to do to survive,
Mm.
is the dental billing. And it's a full-time job now. It absolutely
Mm.
is a full-time job. You often don't have space in your office, so you've got to find a way to hold someone accountable working from home or working out of the office,
Mhm.
with reports and KPIs and daily check-ins and all sorts of things that make it work. And that's how eAssist was born. We After my front office manager left, and I went through these 6 different office managers, I realized I've got to hire more people. I just can't be looking for one person to do all this. And I did. We hired a couple more people, and it was not cost effective.
Mm.
It was a real risk to make it happen. I had to build some software so that we could connect correctly and all HIPAA compliant.
I believe you did some coding yourself, actual coding.
Well, I was a computer science major before, but I didn't do a lot. I did some scripting, which is similar. But we went through and built it and made it work. And
Mm.
we then and then we also created a series of KPIs, or key performance indicators, numbers to track.
Mm.
Like because whatever gets measured gets managed. Peter Drucker taught us that.
Mhm.
Whatever gets measured gets managed, and many dentists don't understand that concept. You've got to find a way to measure every day what you expect people to do,
Mm.
so that you don't have to lead with fear, but you can lead with respect
Right.
from the
Right.
bottom up. And now you just look at the numbers to see how things are going, rather than, are you working? Come on, get to work, get the schedule full. Instead, it's, how many phone calls have you made? How many how many people did you talk to? How many people did you schedule? And there's leading indicators and lagging indicators. And so that's really what happened. And every dentist needs to know those principles and understand those principles. And you just can't, and those KPIs have to be generated internally. Like you when you have certain group of people and certain systems, in my opinion, you've got to let the whole team kind of create what you think is important. You lead, of course, but allow them to help be involved in the process of creating your KPIs. Make them simple, make them focused. You can have leading ones that lead to lagging ones, like collections and production.
Mhm.
Most dentists know about those. But when it comes to billing, I want to know how many claims have been sent, how many claims were appealed,
Right.
how many claims we had to send manually, how many claims
Mm.
electronically, just so I can understand exactly the big picture. And I want to see those numbers every single day. And that's what we did when we built the Assist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's so hard to hire the right expertise, right? And to verify that expertise. Someone might come to you and say, "Oh, I've worked at 5 other dentist offices and I manage their billing, so therefore you should hire me." But that doesn't necessarily mean that they know what they're doing when it comes to submitting a clean claim, making sure to collect on that aging AR.
That's exactly right. And if you're paying someone, here's another important principle. Regardless of if it's billing, or if it's your hygienists or your dentists or your assistants, there's an incredibly important principle that if you can't be right there with the person to just always manage from the top down, which is not the right way to lead.
Mm.
You 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 know you hurt people's hearts and minds, and you lose them, and it's different. But if you can't always be there, then it's your systems that have to do the management for you,
Mm.
which includes the compensation systems that you have. One of the things we do at eAssist is we have a series of tests people have to take, and they have to determine, they have to prove to us whether or not they actually know how to do it and do it well.
And I hear that's a really hard test.
It's a hard test. That's right.
One of the things I want to ask you about is that the general wisdom is that about 70% of dentists are leaving 9 to 10% of revenue on the table. And you touched on this earlier in our conversation. But can you speak a little more specifically about what dental professionals can do to ensure that they're paid 100% of what they're rightfully owed when it comes to billing collections?
Oh yeah. So it all starts at the very beginning when the patient comes in. You've got to not just do an insurance verification, you've got to do an insurance breakdown.
Mm.
And the difference between that and a verification is understanding nuances, like how often will they replace that crown? Is it every 5 years, every 7 years, every
Mhm.
3 years? Because it's different for every insurance plan. How often, when will they pay for a buildup? Is it when the crown is placed, when it's seated? Will they never pay for a
Mhm.
buildup? Is it when it's 30% of the tooth, 50% of the tooth? Because every contract you sign, if you're joining PPOs, and every insurance company has their own systems that you can figure out as you send more and more claims to them. But you've got to understand exactly what questions to ask so that you get on the phone right now, today. Currently, this is what you have to do. And we have things that we're doing to solve this problem. But you've got to get on the phone and get a breakdown of what that insurance will pay. Like fluoride, when is the age cutoff on fluoride? Is it 14? Now, most of your front office managers will know this. You may not know this as a dentist. I know I didn't at first until I was taught these things. But there's about 100 questions, depending on what kind of ADA codes you're billing all the time, that you can't get online for many insurance companies. Some you can, but not all, 100%. You still got to make a phone call. You have to. So that's
Wow.
number one. You got to make a phone call, get a breakdown for every patient that you may do a treatment plan on. Because if you tell a patient that filling is going to be replaced and it's only 3 years old or 5 years old, and the insurance plan won't replace the filling until it's 7 years old, for instance, some of them will do that. And you've told them that they'll pay for 80% of it or 50% of it,
Mm.
you just gave an inaccurate treatment plan. That patient's going to be upset. And so what we normally do is we say, this is a guesstimate. You may owe more. Kind of like we do when we do crowns, right? We'll say, your tooth wasn't hurting you before I touched it, but you had a cavity right next to your nerve, and it's not my fault if it blows up. You have to have that conversation. Every dentist has to. If it turns into a root canal, it's not my fault, and we'll have to fix it and then do a crown. But it's a complication. That's the word you want to use as a dentist. Like, that's a complication, but we can fix that complication. Our medical professionals are able to use words like complication all the time, and
They sure do.
they never like, I want that for free. No, it's a complication. So, like, let's be doctors. Let's use the right vernacular. It's a complication. So in the back, we often will say the same thing. Well, it's a guesstimate, but you may owe more. That makes patients mad. That opens the door to 1-star reviews. That opens the door for you not collecting 100% of its rightfully owed. So that's step number one. You've got to get a breakdown. Of course, we do that for you if you need it, but you can do it yourself, and you just have to hire more people and have them make sure you get a breakdown every single time you have patients coming in. If you're going to present a treatment plan, that's number one. Number two, you've got to make sure your notes are accurate. There are certain templates and things you can do. Dr. Charles Blair is the best at doing this. He built a company called Coding with Confidence and Practice Booster that has a book. It's like the Bible of ADA billing codes. You put it right next to the ADA companions and all of that. And instead of having a lot of technical jargon about when to use a code, it's like layman's English. You use this code if a tooth is falling out of the patient's head and you have to put a wire on it. Be sure to include this in your note and that in your note. Don't include this because that would be fraud. Make sure you include that. It's so simple and so straightforward. So Dr. Blair's Coding with Confidence. Every front office manager knows about this. And so you've got to make sure your chart notes are accurate and have the right information. And then, of course, you've got to take radiographs if they're necessary. And then you submit them. And then often you've got to be able to follow up. Many claims are denied. Many claims, not because it should be denied. It's just, I think the insurance companies maybe are hoping that, I don't know the reason why, but you've got to follow back up sometimes and appeal. Like, here's a good example. We had one customer who, and you've heard the story before, Karen, but kept denying a claim. And so we appealed it and we appealed it and we appealed it. And they finally kept saying, we don't have the x-ray, even though we emailed the x-ray through HIPAA compliant security. We sent it through NEA. We even mailed it. We faxed it. But they kept denying the claim as not having the radiograph. And so one of our e-sisters put it on auto dial for 4 hours straight and kept faxing and faxing the same x-ray. And after 2 hours, the person that kept denying the claims called up Tanya and said, "Hey, we got the fax." That's an example of the kind of work that you have to sometimes do to get every claim paid. You've got to appeal until that claim is paid. So that's just scratching the surface, but there's some nuggets there that every dentist
Yeah.
can incorporate tomorrow in their practice.
Yeah, so real tenacity, having the expertise, but also having the tenacity, right? And knowing when the tenacity makes sense to apply, and maybe when not to apply it.
One more thing on top of
Yeah.
that, like having an intraoral camera, please, not just to show the patients, like so they trust you and build that. Like, and often dentists are like, I don't need an intraoral camera. The patients just trust me. Yeah, they do because they know your heart, they know who you are, and they trust you. But the insurance company doesn't. So having an intraoral camera picture of every crown you take and every tooth you're about to do, just like you do a radiograph, also improves dramatically the success rate you have the first time you submit a claim. So that's another important nugget, not taught in dental school. Please have an intraoral camera, not necessarily for the customers or for the patients, but for the insurance company. Because you can't see everything that you see on a radiograph, but you can see it if you couple it with a few intraoral photographs. So critical tips.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Anderson, always a pleasure. I always learn something. Every time I speak with you, I always learn something. Thank you so much. And thank you to our viewers for tuning in today. And we look forward to your joining us again in the future.
I just want to say one more thing. Thank you, Karen. The purpose of what we need to do as dentists is just have peace of mind. We've got to sleep well at night. No, we've solved the problem and things are working well for our patients and for the work we're doing. But also our practices are running well. Like you got to be able to know that the insurance money is being paid, that the patients' copays are being collected, that we're making money every single month. You know the P&L, like you understand all that, and you understand the KPIs, and that's all organized. And if you do that, you can sleep so well at night. And this is the best profession in the world, and stress-free almost to some degree compared to what it normally is. So that really is our purpose here, and I know every dentist can experience that. It's not something that's impossible. It's within our reach.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful. Words of wisdom and words of kind of hope and encouragement too. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Karen.